If you consider this as a balloon with a bunch of dots, the more you blow the balloon up, the further the distances between various points start becoming over there. So everything is expanding and moving away from each other. Is there something wrong with the theory? Even the math behind it, it's actually very good. The problem, once again, was bad interpretation of the facts. A number of years after this, a chap called William Tift from the University of Arizona and Halton Arp, who's got a PhD from Caltech, a bachelor's from Harvard, an honorary member at the Institute of Astrophysics, a physicist. In other words, again, not a bunch of bungling guys just coming up with random thoughts, people at the top of their field. They started studying what's referred to as aberrant redshifts. In other words, aberrant means it's got an error in it. The redshift theory came from a chap called Edwin Hubble, and today the Hubble telescope is named after him. And this was his theory. Once again, it was good, but they found that there are aberrant redshifts. In other words, things not obeying Hubble's law. Now, in the first place, it's wrong to call it a law, because a law will happen each and every time within science. That's what makes a law and not a rule or a proposition or a theory. Such as gravity. If I drop this 1,000 times, it'll drop 1,000 times. And if one of those 1,000 times that I drop it and it just floats over there, then the law is no longer the law. Then gravity is not a perfect science. Now you might say, okay, well they found some errors. That is the Andromeda Galaxy. Estimated 1 trillion stars that are busy defying the law. This isn't just one, this is one of thousands of examples which they found where there wasn't redshift, it was blue shift. Blue shift meaning it's busy coming towards us. Now that blows the whole theory. Remember what we said when we talked about navigation. If your first presupposition is incorrect, you need to go back to wherever you knew that you were in the right place, and they're not in the right place. Does it mean that there's no expansion in the universe? To be very honest with you, it's debatable by people that are a lot smarter than what I am. But the truth is that the Big Bang Theory is rapidly proving to be incorrect. Now, I've just taken one of 4 very substantial examples which essentially blows Hubble's law, the Big Bang Theory, and a lot of other subsequent theories out of the water. And I'd like to keep my foot on the gas a little bit over here, because there are 2 other theories that I'd like to just touch on, which are being fed in schools as if they were fact. Okay, first we're going to talk about Darwin. Now Darwin originally said there was a warm little pond. That was how he put it. Now, as soon as somebody in an exceptionally high position starts talking about his theory, there may have been a warm little pond somewhere. It sounds like something that comes out of Top Gear, quite frankly. Now, you were probably taught in high school, and I'm just going to read this from a commentary. You were probably taught in school, and many of us not, because when I was in school, that just wasn't part of the curriculum, but that was in South Africa. That may have been very different in different parts of the world, but at least in today's terms. You were probably taught in high school biology that life arose from a primordial soup, Darwin's version of a warm little pond. Most textbooks show pictorial type drawings of early Earth as a dynamic environment full of activity, sunlight beaming through the clouds, energy bearing ultraviolet rays, rain pouring down as lightning strikes, bringing needed energy, creates hotspots with yet more energy, and a few stray comets bringing their organic chemicals to seed the life-giving process. The evolution machine is revving up, a primordial soup of various organic compounds brewed as sparks were set off in the gaseous mixture above steaming water. There's only one problem: it doesn't work. Now, the remainder of what I'm going to be reading here from the majority comes out of one of the high school textbooks, which we'll cite in a moment. Strangely enough,
A century later, experiments were found to confirm this vision. Really? It appeared that Darwin just happened to be right, and the headlines proclaimed that scientists had created life in a test tube. It was referred to as, I think, Urey-Miller test that was conducted. But problems were ignored in the process, which textbooks eventually had to acknowledge. The 2004 version of George Johnson's high school textbook, amongst others, just one of them, published by Holt, Reinhardt and Winston, for instance, includes the primordial soup section but adds a caveat. In its Principles of Evolution unit, the student reads the usual narrative of organic molecules forming spontaneously in chemical reactions activated by energy from solar radiation, volcanic eruptions, and so forth, so forth. The text recounts the success of primordial soup experiments in synthesizing certain organic compounds and conclude. These results support the hypothesis that some basic chemicals of life could have formed spontaneously under conditions, note this, like those in the experiment. It's very devious, and you'll see why it's very devious now, because essentially they've said they support it. But you continue reading. Recent discoveries have caused scientists to reevaluate the experiment. We know that the mixture of gases used in the experiment could not have existed on Earth. You get the double talk that's in that. They're saying the experiment has been found to be true. Life could be created in those conditions, but those conditions aren't possible. Still, it's being said as fact. We know that the mixture of gases used in the experiment could not have existed on early Earth. Some scientists argue that the chemicals were produced within ocean bubbles. Others say that the chemicals arose in deep sea vents. The correct answer has not been determined yet. And that's the biggest truth that they probably got in that whole textbook. For them, from their scientific point of view, is the correct answer has not been determined yet. Yet that is what our kids are being fed as if it were gospel truth. I get quite passionate about it because it's not by chance that the number of devoted Christians worldwide has been on the descent. The number of atheists have been on the increase since this has become a school subject. Because you get people to take that first step incorrect and to question creation. Everything else after that is hard to believe. Did the Lord really die for me? Did the Lord really exist? Is the Bible really true? Despite bioenergetic and thermodynamic failures, the 80-year-old concept of primordial soup remains central to mainstream thinking on the origin of life. But soup has no capacity for producing the energy vital for life. I'm going to move on to one of the other holy grails of evolution theory and the Big Bang theory, which is radio dating errors. Now, that's one of the big things that people say, but they measure all these things they found to be billions of years old. And somehow, it just doesn't work. Somehow, it just doesn't work. Now, we're just going to touch on this one more point, and then we're going to start to wrap it up. Radio decay is used to measure the age of the Earth. So when they take an element, and one of them, let's just use one of them as an example over here, it's called uranium-238. Uranium-238 is exceptionally heavy. Imagine it as if it's somebody carrying a huge bunch of parcels, and as they're busy walking over there, one parcel drops off because they can't keep them all contained. They're too heavy. As soon as it drops one of those, that uranium becomes a product called thorium-234. Thorium-234 is still too heavy. It drops another particle or shakes it off, and thorium becomes protactinium. Protactinium is still too heavy, shakes off another particle, and this process continues and continues and continues until the substance becomes lead. Lead is the heaviest substance that is stable enough to stop shaking off particles. So by counting all those various changes over there, it's almost like counting rings and saying, therefore the date is X amount old. And it's good science in a certain sense. But once again, it has to be completely counted correctly. It's almost like genealogy. If I know whose dad was whose dad and he was so old, etc., then I can determine what the age of that genealogy was. The graphics might be a little bit unclear, and I apologize for that. These are the best pictures that we could get on there. This is in this is a part of the Grand Canyon where they did age studies on a lava flow. They did various tests with the Argon model, the Rubinian model, a number of different ones, isochronic. They had date errors over there between all of these tests. The youngest one being 10,000 years, the oldest one being 3.6 billion years. A massive, massive age difference between those over there. Now, the last of those tests was the Rubinian SR isochron, which found to be 1.34. But the point is that these guys claim that this machine cannot make a mistake. It's free from what's referred to as contamination error. Only problem is after they'd run all these tests, and they said, we will put our money where our mouth is, that this is 1.34 billion years old. Inside the actual lava flow that they were testing, they found Indian pottery from a tribe that existed 800 to 1,000 years ago. All the tests. We're not just talking about one test, we're talking about 6 tests from the one machine, 5 from the other, 1 from that. So we're talking about multi-million-dollar machines over here, all to be found in error simply because of that. James, we have to start wrapping it up, so I'm going to jump ahead a little bit over here. So maybe just touch on one of these. Proof for a younger Earth is moon dust. Moon dust is produced when sunlight and UV rays from the sun impact on the moon, breaking down the actual rock fiber that's on the moon, and it creates a type of dust. By way of definition of the Big Bang Theory, Earth is supposed to be in the vicinity of 14 to 16 billion years old. Based on those facts and the current rate of decay of those rocks, the moon dust would be expected to be literally miles deep. However, moon has been visited, and the amount of moon dust that has been found confirms a moon that is at the very oldest considered to be 10,000. More likely, 6,000 years old. I'm going to jump through a couple of them over here just because of time. Perhaps I'm going to leave out a little bit of information here which we might be able to share on a following occasion. What I would like to put to you over here is that the value of something can often be measured in terms of what it has cost you. What has it taken from you? What did you need to give of yourself to make something happen? If I've spent days, weekends, spare time fixing something, I've got a little camper trailer I like playing with, and I fix it up. And it's taken me quite a lot of time. But once I've got it finished, man, I like it. I really like it a lot. It's old. I mean, I'm fixing it up. It's not as good as a Jayco, one of these new ones that you can go and buy for a lot of money. It's just not as good. But for me, it has a greater value for me. It's something of me, type of thing. And we can often measure value in that. And what I'm saying by that is, how much of the Bible is creation? Genesis 1 to 11. That sums up a very large part, just about all of the creation recount. The rest of the Bible is spent on a reconciliation with God. What did it cost God to create heaven and earth? 6 days. 6 literal days, by the way. 144 hours, and that's what we hopefully will talk about in the future, and the proof of that. It took him 6 days. What did it cost him to reconcile you back to God, his only Son? Joe, thank you so much. It's been fantastic talking to you about this, and the challenge that I'd like to put to you guys is investigate these things. Invest into your children's lives, invest into your grandchildren's lives, your cousins, people that are at school.
invest this into them, because it's really important that they know the truth.